Namaste. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. I'm going to share a little bit on something, a term that Arthur, this one, has coined. Arthur calls it the Neo-Advaita Denial Syndrome. And Arthur knows all about it because he had it for quite some time. So Arthur got really into Advaita Vedanta in 1999. First, it was A Course in Miracles, and then it was the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. And then somewhere around 2004, Arthur noticed that Ramana said some very stringent things about who should and who shouldn't practice self-inquiry. And Arthur also studied the Gita and saw that the Gita had certain recommendations, that there were different spiritual practices for people on different parts of the path, which is actually what Ramana said as well. And what Arthur noticed is that, and at the satsangs he was going to, the teachers were just teaching self-inquiry to everyone and not teaching karma yoga and bhakti yoga and raja yoga like the Bhagavad Gita. So Arthur knew something was wrong, but didn't quite know what. And then he read around 2006, maybe, he read a piece on Vedanta, which said that, that bhakti is a more appropriate path for most people, because people that Advaita Vedanta, that self-inquiry really is for people who are in essence monks and nuns. They don't have to formally be a monk or nun, but because it's a path of complete renunciation of desire. And hence bhakti was a more appropriate path for most people, and that bhakti would lead to an organic and sort of a natural kind of renunciation, that as one loves God, one just becomes less interested in worldly things and less attached. Whereas if you hop right to self-inquiry and you still have a lot of desires, you're at war with yourself. And that was in 2006. And Arthur said, oh my God, that is true. I've never heard it expressed so clearly. That is true. So that was 2006. And it wasn't until 2019 that Arthur gave up self-inquiry. So it took him 13 years. It took me 13 years to stop practicing self-inquiry because I was addicted to it. And because Arthur, like all of us, has been brainwashed into thinking self-inquiry is the only path. Everyone should be doing self-inquiry. And the thing is this was really made clear to Arthur recently. Arthur has a very dear friend who's also recovering from Neo-Advaita, fake Advaita, or watered. It's really, it shouldn't even be called Neo-Advaita. It just should be called fake Advaita. This person has very severe health challenges, very extreme anxiety, depression, really just isn't able to live. Neo-Advaita really almost killed this person. And he and Arthur have had many talks about, well, that's Neo-Advaita, and this is what actual Advaita is. And this is why self-inquiry doesn't work for people who aren't properly qualified. Here's what Ramana taught. Here's what Adi Shankara taught. Many talks. The person was like, yeah, that's really true. You're right. And yeah, it's never worked. And in fact, it always leaves me more unbalanced, and it is addictive. And then a week or two later, Arthur received a phone call like, yeah, I'm just going to focus on the self. Like, that's my way. We'd have this talk again. No, I didn't even try at that point. But, this went on for a couple of months. And it's, Neo-Advaita truly is like a cult, and it truly is like a virus. It's inaccurate information, and then people just pass it along. It reminds Arthur, after the nuclear power plant in Japan dumped the radioactive material in the ocean. There was this thing that went around on Facebook that called the Hawaii is hot. And basically what it was, I'm going to see if I can find it and then I'll post a link. It was this diagram of like like scientists had taken measurements of radioactivity, and the radioactivity from Japan had made it to Hawaii, and it was like Hawaii is now dangerous. Like had all these diagrams, and it looked really legit.
Okay, how many cameras are there?
All right, not going to multitask right now. And and everyone was passing it around, and everyone was freaking out, and it was completely fake, completely made up, but it looked true, and it had a connection to the truth. The truth is some radioactive crap got dumped in the water in Japan, and that radioactivity is spreading around the world. At this point, it's probably saturated the oceans. So, but not to the extent that this was claiming, but it was grounded in a truth, just as Neo-Advaita is grounded in a truth, and then completely distorts. And so the reason why I, Arthur, keep making these videos is Arthur's hope is to save people some time. It took Arthur 13 years to break free. And Arthur's hope is that he can help other people break free from the cult. The cult of Advaita Vedanta is very simply this. You and everyone is qualified to practice self-inquiry, and self-inquiry is the only practice you need to do. I think that really sums up the cult right there. Yeah, that's probably the whole cult right there, and it is a closed system. If you and Arthur has seen it over and over and over again. People going to satsang, asking questions, people who are not qualified for self-inquiry. Arthur wasn't self-qualified. And then these fake gurus saying, who is it that wants to know? Just inquire. You are the self. If that isn't clear, inquire. Over and over and over. There's one Neo-Advaita satsang that Arthur's initially was participating in, now just observes so that he can learn about Neo-Advaita. Watch this go on for over 20 years. Same people, same questions, same answer. If they're asking the same fucking question for 21 years, they're not making progress. But they keep going back because it's a virus and they've got it, and a virus / cult. It's a closed belief system. Part of the belief system is, oh, this particular guru or teacher is enlightened and can lead me there. And part of why Arthur makes all these videos is it helps protect him. It helps protect me. Because, just the other day, I was talking to an old friend who started sharing some Neo-Advaita nonsense, and it's alluring. It's alluring to fall back into that belief system. So the solution is karma yoga and bhakti yoga and raja yoga, to a lesser extent raja yoga, but which is exactly what Ramana Maharshi actually taught. Karma yoga, having a life dedicating our life to God, to service and to God. And bhakti yoga, various practices of loving and worshiping God. Those things purify the mind and start to prepare it for self-inquiry. Then comes Raja Yoga of breath control and meditation to cultivate one-pointedness of mind. Then the mind is ready for self-inquiry. And the last piece is, for someone who's already qualified, Neo-Advaita can work. That direct pointing, which for 99.9% of the population is direct pointing into confusion and into a cult, basically. For maybe 0.1% of the population, Arthur doesn't know the exact statistics, it can be helpful. And that's the other, if Neo-Advaita was just 100% bullshit, it would be easy to be like, oh, that's bullshit. But like the Hawaii is hot graphic, and hopefully Arthur will be able to post a link to it. It looks, sounds, and feels real. But isn't that how Maya operates? Thank you so much for joining in. Take care. Much love.